Hey there folks, thought I'd show you something that I purchased yesterday. Happened into one of my local gun shops and made a deal with the owner and came away with this little Soviet era TOZ-16 22 single shot bolt action rifle. So let's have a little look at it here. We've got a steel butt plate. You can tell by the amount of wear on the butt plate that it hasn't seen a whole lot of use. And it's got a dark kind of a stained, I would assume it's a birch stock with a lacquer finish. The lacquer's kind of scuffed up a bit, but a little bit of checkering here along the grip. It's a very simple little rifle, single shot bolt action, stamp trigger guard. The trigger is a two-stage type trigger. The bolt has a safety much like the Muzzle and the Gaunt rifle. It can be turned to engage the safety. As I said, it's a single shot. It's got an extractor and a mating extractor which helps to guide the cartridge case over to the ejector. Got a sliding tangent type rear sight. We've got sling swivels fore and aft. They're the narrow European type sling swivels. Stock has a little bit of a schnabel fore end. The barrel is 21 inches long, and it's a little unusual because it's got this larger bell type portion at the end instead of having a straight taper to the muzzle. So I've heard various explanations for that belled muzzle, but I'm open to anybody who wants to explain it to me further. I've heard it being described as a kind of a harmonic balancer or something like that. And we've got a very simple drift adjustable front blade type post sight. The muzzle's unusual too from the front because you can see how big the hole is. It's counterbored back there quite a ways to protect the rifling, so there's really no danger of damaging the muzzle because it's relieved back a bit. So I'll flip her over and we'll have a look at the other side. We'll start off at the front here, give you a little better idea what the front sight looks like. It's a very useful front sight type arrangement. Sturdy blade type front sight which tapers up to the top. It's got a nice flat top to it. I really like that style of sight. It's simple, it's uncluttered, and it does the job quite well. So we'll move back once again. As I mentioned, 21-inch barrel, and one of the things about the rifle I don't like is the finish on the stock. It's this kind of a lacquer, and it shows every little scuff and ding on it. The bluing on the rifle is actually quite good shape, but the stock makes it look a little shabbier than it really is. See this hole here? That's a gas relief hole. If you had a cartridge case which let go, there's a hole there, and there's actually a hole on the opposite side which mates up to it. Then that would vent any gas from a ruptured cartridge case. We keep it from coming back towards the shooter, so that's a great safety feature. You can see the bolt has a large knurled portion at the back that can assist in cocking the rifles. If you have a misfire, you can recock it, and also that's used to engage and disengage the safety. And as I mentioned, got a bit of cut checkering here. The checkering really doesn't accomplish anything of practical value because it's so smooth it doesn't really help you get much of a grip on the rifle. But the stock is it's a nice adult size stock. It's not a kid size rifle. It's definitely meant for an adult, which is nice. I'll look at the top of the rifle here. You can see that the rear sights are graduated from 25 meters all the way out to 200 meters. And from my experience in shooting the rifle today, they seem to be pretty well dialed in for 40 grain standard velocity ammunition. And you can see the markings on the rifle here, TOZ-16, and the logo above that for the Tula works. And the logo also says made in the USSR, or I guess just made in USSR. And we've got the serial number beside that, which is also on the bolt. And you can see the top of the receiver is also grooved for the standard tip-off type 22 scope mounts. The back of the receiver here, there's a notch for one of the safety cock positions, and then behind that there's a little tiny dimple here at the very end of the receiver, and that's for the safety engagement when the rifle is in full cock. Let's give you a little close-up of the action. Pretty standard type arrangement. Single shot. And we can have a look into the loading port there. You can see there's a trough here where you can set a cartridge in place, and that will guide it into the chamber. There's also a little protrusion here. That's the ejector. So we'll demonstrate the operation of the safety. Get the bolt closed. See that the striker is all the way back. To engage the safety, pull the bolt back slightly, turn it to the left or counterclockwise, and you can see that the striker is captured by the back of the receiver. In this position, the rifle cannot fire. And that's basically a duplication of the Muzzle sort of style, which would make sense. This is a Soviet era rifle. There's also another safety position. I'll ease the striker head here. Should you wish to carry the rifle with a round in the chamber and not have the striker sitting on top of the cartridge, which is a bad idea, you can ease the striker ahead as I just did, pull it back slightly, and then rotate the striker over into this notch here. And that way, you want to look, you can see there's a gap here between the striker and the back of the bolt. In this position, the striker is not sitting on top of the cartridge, so it's basically safer to carry it in this fashion. If you wish to fire, you turn the catch back over, hard to do at this angle, and then pull it back to fire it. Also, with the striker locked in this position, the bolt is locked shut. It will not open. Although you can unload the rifle with the safety applied in the fully cocked position, it's possible to unload the rifle with the safety on, which is a good idea too. The bolt on this rifle removes in the fashion which you'd expect it to. It's pretty straightforward, like most 22s. Simply open the bolt up. You're sure it's unloaded, pull the trigger, and then just pull the bolt straight to the rear. And the bolt is a very simple design. It uses the root of the handle as a locking lug. That's the only locking lug there is. You can see it's pretty dirty. I've been shooting it all afternoon. There's an extractor on this side, which is pointed, and that actually pulls the cartridge case out. And then there's this spring-loaded kind of a helper, I guess you'd call it, on the other side, which has less of a point on it. And that basically keeps the cartridge back against the breech face until it gets flicked out by the ejector. And the ejector would ride up in this little slot here. You can see the firing pin up above, and typical of most Soviet era 22s, it gives the cartridges quite a good smash. And you can see the bottom side of the firing pin there, spring. So it's a pretty standard type of bolt. And cock and piece at the back. So nothing too exotic there, just sort of sensible stuff. So to put the bolt back in the rifle, just line it up with the receiver till it goes in. Squeeze the trigger and let the bolt go ahead. And that's all there is to that. The rear sight, as I mentioned, is a sliding type sight. You can see the graduations on it go from 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175, and 200 meters. And to adjust it, you simply squeeze the knurled button on this side. That unlocks it, and you can push it ahead to whatever setting you desire. And from what I've seen, they seem to be pretty well calibrated, and the rifle is very well zeroed as I got it. Almost every Russian or Soviet rifle I've come across has been zeroed quite well. The rear sight is a notch, sort of see it there, Nice wide notch, lets enough light in on each side, but it's not too wide so that it's not imprecise. It's a good sight. Well, I'm really liking the trigger on this rifle. It's a two-stage. If you take up the first stage, it's just very crisp. It loads up to the first stage is completely used up, and with a little bit more pressure it breaks really crisply. But the only thing that you could do to improve it would be to put an over travel stop on it. It does go kind of far after it's released, but it's quite a nice trigger. And this Remington stuff is so quiet you don't even really need the hearing protection for it when you're out in the open like this. I guess to summarize, I'd have to say that I'm pretty pleased with my purchase of this little 22 Soviet-era rifle. It shoots well, it's been reliable, and it's accurate. So there's a certain charm to single-shot 22s, even when they're in a butt-ugly stock like this one. But like I said, I'm happy with this, and it shoots better than I expected it would. So I would recommend, if you come across one of these at a decent price and you like single shot 22s, quite worthwhile to add one to your battery. Hope you enjoyed the video, folks. Talk to you later.